I hope you're able to see my screen and my voice is clear. Can anyone confirm on chat, please? I hope you're able to see my screen and my voice is clear. Okay, thank you. So, thanks for joining this session. Today is the day one of JBoss administration. That's Whitefly application server. We're going to talk about today, and here on from BASP. So, I hope you got a chance to look at the demo part that we had in the during the weekend. So let me go through and let's come back to the session that we're going to talk about today. Let's have a recap on, then we're going to continue about it. So today will be our day one in this session. So in the demo session, I was talking about the history of it. That's nothing but your open source product by JBoss community is what your Whitefly is. So there is a renaming being done from the version called 8 from Whitefly. Earlier it's been termed as an JBoss application server, which is now being treated as Whitefly application server. And JBoss, the name given to the proprietary one to the enterprise product vendor, that's called Red Hat, who supports as an enterprise software for your JBoss application server. So Red Hat does maintain its enterprise level. So the JBoss is an open source product. In the sense, anyone can use it and develop their own product at any point of time. Same as you heard about Sun API. Sun API is again an open source that can be used by anyone, and they can develop their own JDK, where IBM, HP, and Oracle have been developing that. Similarly, enterprise level of JBoss is being maintained by Red Hat. They have licensing stuff which can be maintained the product, and they can fix the product issues at runtime at any point of time. But any bugs, yes, JBoss community will also help you to do it. So the community website now being treated as whitefly.org. Earlier it's jboss.org. If you go to Google, just type whitefly.org. That's where the environment comes in. That's where the default page comes in from the open source resources. There are multiple versions which I was talking about in the demo session. The application server's versioning of a JBoss starting with 4. I didn't start with the very first beginning, which is no more exists. So 4, 5, 6, 7, you might be saying pretty old applications still keep on working with the older versions, even though there is no support to that. Then you have Whitefly, the name change been done from 8.x, 9.x, 10.0.x, and 10.1.0, which is the latest in the market right now. Similar fashion, your enterprise version is different again. Enterprise patterns is definitely different again when you compare with the versioning pattern for your JBoss open source. So right now in the latest, if you compare with, you would definitely see Whitefly 10.1 is the latest one in the market from open source perspective. But whereas you have EAP 7.0, that's the latest from your enterprise layer, enterprise from Red Hat. So there are multiple software extensions I was talking about again. That's nothing but your final release, service pack, candidate release. So these are the extension series definitions been given to the software as a pre-release. So final release will be a stable release. Everyone would expect to use this. But the service pack is a patch layer level work that can be done to the existing version that has been released, and the candidate release is the one that has been released before the final release. So JBoss has extensions being given such a way that any new version coming in, they come in with first candidate release, the basic version pattern, and the final release will be released after a few weeks after the candidate release. During that period of time, they would definitely make sure they have the better product being released in the market as a stable release at any point of time. So JBoss can be executed anywhere, where you would expect to use on either on Windows or Linux flavors. Now when I talk about Linux, again within Linux there are multiple flavors. Red Hat is the more prominent one, which obviously been provided by the enterprise product. But apart from enterprise levels of similar to Red Hat, you do have SUSE Linux, Oracle Linux do maintain their open source standard. They converted into the enterprise products. And the EAP from Red Hat and the enterprise product, you do have enterprise level 7.0 is the latest one, which is compatible to work with standard editions and the enterprise editions of Java with the latest products, latest versions. As I said again, Wildfly is purely a Java compliant application server. In the sense, any Java components can be deployed on the server. It has support to the configuration of partner exclusively can be executed with any standardization specification being maintained from Java can be deployed on this. So there are three types of editions that I was talking about: Java Standard Edition, Java Enterprise Edition, Java Micro Edition. So these are the three editions that is being given up, can be adoptable at any point of time. But still, Micro Editions is only exclusively for mobile versions, but the standard and the enterprise editions is what we keep on working on. So standard is nothing but something like you might heard about the code product. The enterprise is nothing but something that supports to your enterprise business logic being defined, the framework being used appropriately. Then as part of the software bundles, yes, from Java, you do have JDK, Java Development Kit. From JRE, you have Java Runtime Environment, which will be used exclusively with, Java supports both of the versions again, both of the software that can be used. JDK by default contains JRE, and it's part of your JDK installation. But JRE is exclusively only a runtime environment. If you want to have only the runtime environment that can set up to get executed, yes, JRE can be used at any point of time. Java API, as I was talking about earlier, it's an open source API owned by Sun Microsystems, the Java community. They keep on changing up the API appropriate to have the better performance, better functionality, better features and stuff. So JCP is a process which gives the right direction towards your Java feature directory. Same as I was talking about earlier, there are 4 vendors from your Java. One is Sun cum Oracle. Sun has been acquired by Oracle, only the enterprise products. So all your Sun enterprise products are now Oracle. When I say Sun, let's take something like Solaris operating system. That's an enterprise product. Yes, that has been owned by Oracle again. Sun JDK enterprise been taken care of by Oracle. So all the enterprise products of Sun Microsystems been handled by Oracle now, acquired by them. Then you do have other JDKs, IBM JDK, HP JDK, and Oracle JDK. So all these JDKs are enterprise. In the sense, they have taken up the open source API and built their own functionality, their own way of execution of JVMs. And if you ask me what would be the difference between them, yes, performance pack, the compatible libraries. Example, IBM JDK exclusively recommended to work with IBM operating system. So your IBM JDK is being built with the highest performance pack being developed exclusively to that particular operating system to have a better performance, better handling of IO operations, library usage and stuff. Same way HP JDK exclusively will work only with HP UX operating system, because they have developed their own proprietary to have better performance. So performance packs is one of the major difference that you would really look at, and support to the libraries that can give up the compatibility to their products that runs on their respective operating system. Same way, I was also talking about competitors with the open source Wildfly or the JBoss. Yes, you do have other competitors which gives a equal composition, but might give more advanced composites as well, but that really depends on the type of application that you're developing and the resources that you're going to run on that, and the multiple factors that comes in again. So a few of the factors I was talking about was the performance. Performance can be evaluated based on multiple factors. One would be a network layer. Second one will be a hardware, which includes your processor, memory, storage, then operating system, then application environment, applications server or applications that has been developed. Then the Java, obviously based on your resources that exclusively been worked with. Then you have integration products as well that I was talking about. So either of the way, all these factors plays a vital role. We have given a clear differentiation for your JBoss WebSphere and WebLogic appropriately. This is what I was talking about in our regular demo session in the weekend. So now let's continue today's topic with first talking with architecture. Then we're going to come back with the resources that are required. So here is Java architecture. It's not something like this is architecture for JBoss or WebSphere or WebLogic or Tomcat. This is the architecture from Java EE, Enterprise Edition. So towards your left side, you have clients, multiple clients coming into picture. Very first client that you see here is web client. You have an applet and you have a client applications. So these client differs the way that they generate the applications at any point of time. And you do have an option of generating the the request can be formulated into different patterns at any point of time. So either of the way, the request that has been generated is been handled to that particular sources. Like if you're working with web application, yes, web content will handle the request. If you're working with a library as an API that has been developed or it's stored, the business logic has been defined, yes, it might interact directly with the EJB container at any point of time. So in the middle layer, your Java application server contains the combination of your services in JNDI, JAS, JMX, JMS, JDBC, GDA, RMI, and web services. Each has its own significance. Something like you have a web application which you want to talk to database. So your web container might be interacting with a database which works exclusively with the resources that are configured on it. Give me a second, guys. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back. So the one that I was talking about was the architecture, where your containers which interact with services in the background, which plays a vital role. So these services, the one that I was talking about was JNDI, JAS, JMX, JMS, JDBC. So when I say these services, so each service has its own category. When I say I want to talk to database, so your application that has been developed, it will try to identify to do a lookup with the JNDI tree. JNDI is nothing but the naming object definition that will be defined for a particular resource to identify the configuration. So your database configuration would be identified with the JNDA configuration that has been mapped to your resources. So your application will try to do a lookup on the JNDA tree that has been maintained in your application server. So this is what's been expected. That's the functionality being expected from the enterprise layer for every application server being designed with. Same with JAS, Java Authentication and Authorization Service, which helps you to interact with directory services. You have JMX, Java Management Extensions. This helps you to talk to any third party, any resource with building blocks of resources that are running in the background within beans. You do have JMS, Java Messaging Service. Yes, if you want to talk to messaging queue, yes, this helps you to talk to resources like ActiveMQ, HornetMQ, or IBMMQ. And the resources can be configured appropriately and where the application can try to get those objects in the background. You do have JDBC that I was talking about earlier. You do have JTA, Java Transactions. You do have RMI, Remote Method Invocations, which helps you to interact with other applications running on other servers. Then you have JAX Web Services. So this web services helps to interact with other third-party resources that you have, third-party web services that you have in the global internet, or you can develop and maintain that web services internally again. Similarly, similar to this architecture, you have every resource that helps you to work on the resources parallelly. So today we're going to again continue the topic to the stuff where the WebLogic has been required with. So the JBoss is one of the competitors more exclusively for your enterprise products like WebLogic and WebSphere. And this version of WebLogic is being certified with Java EE 7. The JBoss version that we're talking about, it has certification with Java EE 7, which is a fully compliant application server, which means it provides the references to the implementation for all Java specification requests. JSRs is what we're talking about. So JSRs are basically the change request for your Java language where your JCP process will implement appropriately. At any point of time, the implementation would differ from application server to application server the way that they implement it. And within your JBoss, with the latest versions, you do have a new version of web servers that's called Undertow. Earlier, we used to have JBoss web server that has been embedded within your JBoss product, which is now being treated as Undertow. That's a replacement for your JBoss web server. It's been removed and been replaced with Undertow. So this is Undertow is one of the web server that's a proprietary open source stuff which will be embedded within your JBoss. That supports non-blocking and blocking handlers, WebSockets, and asynchronous servlets, and it has been designed for scalability and maximum throughput. So it's been highly used in front of your application servers to make sure to have a processing stuff that can be done at any point of time, that can be giving a robust round-robin pattern of algorithm that can be defined. So let me give up a high overview about it. So let's say that you have a machine. Within this you do have, let's assume that you have 3 instances of your JBoss. So JBoss server 1, JBoss server 2, JBoss server 3. Assume that you have 3 servers of JBoss, and you do have a client towards your left side. I have 5 users that you can think of towards your left side, and let's say that you have a resource which is embedded embedded within your JBoss. So your JBoss, your undertow will maintain itself as a web server, where the request, the user request, comes to undertow first. Then all the requests are being forwarded and will be handled by your undertow. And in the background, that will be taken care by your JBoss server based on the request that comes in. Again, you can maintain a proxy server in front of your undertow. So you can have a proxy server resources in front of your JBoss environment. This is a proxy server. So this server so all the user requests first hit the proxy server. So this proxy server will help you to do an filtering of authorized and unauthorized users. So this done filtering authorized and unauthorized users. So this will be forwarded to your resources that appropriately can be handled with your resources that are configured within your JBoss. So either of the way, your proxy server plays a vital role, which you can maintain in front of your JBoss server. Again, can be forwarded to undertow with the corresponding static content or the static content that has been deployed on it, where JBoss in the background application server will work with dynamic content in parallel. So that really depends on. So we keep on working on this kind of an architecture from here on. Then, apart from that, you do have resources that you want to configure with ports reduction. WildFly for JBoss, you used to have a different port numbers that you want to work with. For HTTP specific to your API, API specific, AJP specific port number. You might be heard with HTTP port number, and you are be using with web server specific port number. So each has been categorization been done. So you need to just use 2 ports going forward for every instance that you want to configure with. So the older versions has an individual resources that has been configured with separate port numbers that you want to configure with, which is now the latest versions of WildFly. You don't need to have its aggregation where only ports can be used at any point of time. Security manager. So you can now configure per deployment security permissions. So in a sense, all your all your JBoss server, JBoss or WebLogic or WebSphere, Tomcat, they all maintain a Java specific standard security configuration by default, within which they can customize. They have customized security manager appropriately based on the requirement that they want to do. So per deployment security permissions, since they have segregated security configuration that can be isolated between your resources in the background. Then the logging. So these are the enhancements being done with the latest versions, which I'm talking about right now, which gives you a high level overview about that. So logging is one of the concept under JBoss, not only JBoss, any application server, which gives you an event level logging that is really needed for your resources. So several enhancements has been made to your WildFly logging. You can now view log files via management interface, define custom formats, and configure logging per deployment. So in a sense, earlier the standard structure was to look at the log files to that particular directory where it's been configured with. So now they have been come up with the enhancements to work support to it, to that particular logging. which can be looked at from management interface as well. But there is a challenges to any product. If you want to look at the content from your GUI, if the file size is huge, that's again a challenge again which you have to maintain. You need to make sure to maintain the based on the size of the files. You have to look whether to look at from the GUI or from command line. So management interface, yes, that's one of the UI tools that has been provided, which gives you more robust configuration views that can be looked at. But looking at these files, log files through management interface gives you a challenge if the file size is huge. That's one condition that you can look at. But you can customize your patterns at any point of time. Configuration using GUI or non-GUI is pretty much same. You don't see much difference in the sense the parameters that you use. But the way of using the runtime environment monitoring is one of the challenges for your GUI, because GUI is also kind of an application that has been deployed on it. So even that application takes care that has few capabilities. Then you might be looking at the clustering. Yes, every product of application server will have a clustering same way your Wildfly JBoss does have it. So the clustering is refactored in the sense they come up with the new features where the web sessions single sign-on mod cluster support for Undertow is being added to it, because your Undertow is new web server that is being embedded within it. There is also a new public cluster API that has been developed for your developers who works on JBoss as well. Then you do have one more GUI utility called CLI, command line interface. So command line is of two types. You can either enter the command using command line, or you can even perform command line using GUI. So command line also been provided with GUI environment. Now you have the ability to define an alias when connecting to a server, and GUI of your CLI has an additional functionality allowing you to explore any node in the tree. So in a sense, any node configuration that can be configured, that has been available, can be looked at using the command line interface GUI tool, which we keep on going talking about it. Then Java EE support. So Java enterprise level support. Yes, Java EE is a standard platform for developing multi-tier applications and for runtime. Yes, you need a server to run it. That's where we're talking about JBoss Wildfly. So it's an application server specification that will be treated as, because any developer who develops to maintain the standards, your environment should also, your runtime environment should also be in an upgradable mode. In the sense, your JBoss, which is running in the background as a runtime environment, should also have a support table. So the support defines the interaction and the API between naming and directory services, transactions, monitors, databases, messaging systems, and other enterprise information systems should also be in compatible mode to it. So a combination of existing APIs is what is been defined over here for your information, so that you will get a high level overview about it. So every component or every service or every API that I'm talking about is the integral part of your Java API. It could be server-side components like EJB or JNDI. JMS will have messaging API, JNDI database access API, servlet dynamic web content, Java mailing sending email API, or JDA controlling transactions, connector transactions, COBA, or it could be Java specifications specific to JCP, JSR. So these are few specifications and library concept that I'm talking about right now. You do have architecture again where I've published, which talks about your application server specification. So you might be having an entire architecture coming in again, where you have web client, web tier, and your business tier, and you do have standalone clients which talks about it. So any request that comes in from your web client again, which has capability to interact with web tier, and this web tier talks about which can be differentiated. So your web container and EJB container has been differentiated over here. If you can look at the request coming in from web client is been received by the web tier first, and this web tier is forwarding the request based on the business logic being executed, which talks about getting the object configuration from JNDI, from the JNDI lookup, and the resources appropriately being executed in the background. And this also talks about the resources which interact with JDBC as well. Again, there could be some standard clients which doesn't come through your web tier, but directly getting interacted with your business layer as well. So that's how the configuration, the way of client that you use differentiates the way of execution of your requests. Again, apart from that, as I was talking about earlier, there are three types of standard editions that you can, three types of Java editions that you can look at for to work with it. So standard edition, enterprise edition, and the micro edition is what I'm talking about. And you do have request JSRs as well, appropriately for each edition. So here is an overview about the JSRs that's been part of it. So let me give an example for you. Let's take JSR 345. That's a specification standard that works with EJB 3.2. JSR 356. That's work with your WebSockets. Or anything support to your HTML5. JSR 344. So based on that specification, the corresponding product will have a certain version standards. So at any point of time, either whatever the standardization or specification that you work with, and obviously your Java applications will work with entire architecture applications. You will have a presentation layer, business tier, and the data tier. So three tier, entire architecture works with more than two. It's been treated as an entire architecture. So a business tier presentation comes up with anything that has been developed with Servlet JSP, following MVC or the Struts framework, JSF, and stuff. And recently you might be heard about Spring framework as well. So when you talk about business tier, anything with POJO, anything developed with POJO or EJB, working with session beans or MDBs, combination of these two works again appropriately to work with it. Then you have data tier exclusive working with JDBC or Hibernate stuff, JPA as well, works with entire constitution. Then here again talks about Java E multi-tier architecture again. Either of the way you'll have client-side environments, J2E platform, then your third-party resources which resides outside your environment that works with like database. Understand the right runtime, new runtime features? Yes. To any version of WebLogic, any version of JBoss or Wildfly or WebLogic or WebSphere, runtime features will differ. Obviously, the way that they have been supported with to work with it. So because the way of that they develop the products is what they differentiate. Obviously, right now in the market, you definitely have Wildfly, the latest version 10 in the market. Obviously, when you focus on that versions, the final versions and stuff, it talks about support to your features. Yes, Java EE7, that's the specification. It's been supported right now by 10. It's been implemented appropriately. Again, what is the latest version that has been coming with? Obviously, that has been built on Wildfly 9. Obviously, with the older version that they are incorporating, they keep on adding up the new functions, new functionalities, new features, new support to the libraries that works with it, and few bug fixes with the older versions. Any challenges, any bug fixes with the older versions, that's been incorporated by giving up a patch to you, that also been incorporated with the latest versions at any point of time. So Java 8 is supported, 8 plus. In next few months, you might be getting Java 9 as well in the market. Yes, in that case, your JBoss or WebLogic or WebSphere, they will come up with the latest versions again. Tomorrow WildFly 11 might come up. It supports with the Java 9 when Java 9 is released in the market. Again, a few years, few versions back, the Hornet Q code base was donated to Apache ActiveMQ project, and Hornet Q community joined to build the next gen message brokering application. So we will be working with ActiveMQ appropriately to work with this because it's an integral part of the project that's been embedded. So you have these MQ messaging products, which is being embedded with the other suite of products as well as an open source resources, which is now being embedded with your JBoss. JBoss is being using open source resources to create advanced, robust, high-level, lightweight components that's been developed. So you might be heard about domain and standalone now. So earlier versions, your JBoss or WildFly used to support only a standalone concept. There used to be the concept of domain doesn't exist in the older versions, but with the latest WildFly versions, there's a concept of domain environment that have been come up, which gives you a significance of environment setup that can be expanded into distributed systems at any point of time. So in addition to the offline CLI support for standalone mode, you can now launch a host controller locally within your CLI using the embedded host controller. So that's the backend stuff that can be talked about, and they would be maintaining their own corresponding configuration files, which differs between standalone and domain mode at any point of time. Then JavaScript support as well for hot reloading. So there used to be resources something like WildFly 10 includes Undertov.js projects, which allows you to write server-side conscripts that can pull your resources at runtime. So any resources that you want to work with, any change in the configuration, you have to recycle your resources to take care of doing a reloading about your resources to take the latest changes into consideration. So there's a concept of hot reloading where your environment of your files which are in change can be dynamically reloaded without having to redeploy your applications. That's one of the concepts that they have pulled up from your runtime environment with the latest versions. Then high availability singleton deployments. Singleton, maintaining resources on a machine at any point of time to a single resource. So this is a new implementation of a feature. So the feature exists, but the new implementation is being added appropriately that they keep on working with it. So a deployment may either specify a specific singleton policy or a user default subsystem policy that can be working with your deployments. Same way singleton for your MDBs, server-side scripting, server-side components also been added to it, exclusively working on it. Then few of the SLSB, stateless session beans, and MDBs. So the server-side components, pooling concept been added to it at runtime so that they don't, they can have capability to host heavier chorus resources in the background. Then it talks about your subsystem capability support to it. It also talks about capability and requirement where your JBoss, the latest version that it can be working with. And Hibernate is also a runtime environment support to it, which is being supported with few improvements that have been taken up with it. Then PowerShell scripts were also been added to your WildFly bin distribution, where it gives you an extension of .bat or .sh based on your operating system execution that you want to work with, where JBoss can be emphasized at any point of time. So release notes is also an important one, which you want to really look at for every version. It's not that only you want to talk with standard version. So release notes is also an important note point where you would really look at when you're working with any upgrade of your JBoss WildFly. That's where the release notes that you would really talk about it, because that you need to work with, you need to see what subsystems that's been upgraded. You can see that Hibernate validator has been upgraded. So you have JBoss web server has been upgraded. Okay, Netty, you have Rest Easy is one of the resource configuration. InfySpan is also being used for during clustering concept. It's also been added to it. So these all been upgraded. It's what it talks about. So components that are been upgraded within this release version it talks about, and enhancements has been done to this. So Java 8 supports meta size space. That's one of the Java feature, Java variable. So that has been default variables has been modified. So that's the enhancements been done. Feature requests. So that's a new functionality or new improvements being done to it. That's what it talks about. Something like step thread detection is being added to it. That's been taken care. And jar services are not loading from static modules. Even that has been taken into consideration as a functionality changes. And compiler stuff specific to your Java 8 has been taken care. And also been added a functionality of adding auto create or delete JMS queues to address settings resources has been added to it. And these all are the bug fixes being implemented, being added to your latest versions of your Wiley. So you coming to this, you will be able to identify what is new in this version. Okay, so that's what it talks about. It gives you an significance information from this release notes documents. So tomorrow we're going to start with the installation of your JBoss. So I have a slide for you which gives you an installation pattern. It's a step-by-step process that gives you an information about it. So we're going to talk about the installations tomorrow, starting with the prerequisites that are required for your starting with installation. So that's it for today. Any questions?